Well, we're going to talk about underdogs as Massey talked about an underdog win for our YouTube portion of the show, youtube.com/front stretch, where you can subscribe. And I will pose the question to you three. Preston, you can go first. What is the best underdog win in the history of NASCAR?
Whew. I don't know. I had a hard time thinking about it. I would probably say Trevor Bayne, Daytona 500.
That was my pick.
Oh, there we go.
Preston,
It took a while.
where were you when that happened?
I wasn't there. Honestly, I can't remember. It's just that guy. No one had him on his radar before the 500. I mean, I think it was his second career start. The Wood brothers, up to that point, it didn't really find a resurgence with it. I don't think they were even Team Penske alliance yet, so they were definitely not even highlighted. I think I would say SVG, but the man is a really good road racer, and those cars are really close to the supercars. So I don't think it was too far fetched this year, but I think definitely Trevor Bayne, 2011 Daytona 500. If you were around and had a 2011 bingo card, I don't think that was on it.
Yeah, that was a good one for sure. Like I remember that was huge. Like people that didn't follow NASCAR were talking. Like I remember them talking about it on Sports Center, and that really was just one of the biggest from just like the popularity of it, I would say.
So funny story. So during the duels, I watched him hook up. I think it was with Kurt Busch, or maybe I think it was Kurt Busch who was in the 22 at the time. And I saw him draft with him and work with him for a number of laps, and I saw how fast they were. And I looked at my mom Sunday morning. You can ask her this, hand to God. I looked at my mom and I went, Trevor Bayne wins this race. Trevor Bayne's going to win today. I swear, if I'm lying, I'm dying. And I'll tell you this right now, because every prediction I've ever made since has been 100% incorrect. So that is, I remember that one because I got it completely right. And I was very surprised when I got it right, but I swear I called it. I said, I looked at my mom and I said, Trevor Bayne wins the Daytona 500 today. And lo and behold, he won it. I just saw how fast they were. I knew they were competitive, but I agree, Preston. Like that was one heck of a win, a great feel-good story.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't even on anyone's radar going into Speed Weeks. I mean, obviously they had a really good duel. He was working with Jeff too, I remember.
Yeah, Jeff.
And that was highlighted really good during the broadcast. But like going into that, there's no way you would have thought that would have happened.
And he had Bobby Labonte pushing him on the last lap in a JTG car.
I feel like that team was on its way out too. Like Wood Brothers hadn't done anything in so long that really kind of jump started them again. But,
yeah, because I think they were part-time too up to that point. So yeah, it definitely changed the course for him.
Massey, do you have one?
Yeah, so that was definitely what I was thinking of. I'm gonna go just a little bit further back.
Shocking.
No, it is 8 years further back. But I mean, honorable mention. I'll give Lake Speed 1988 Darlington, because Darlington, like winning the super speedway is one thing, but winning in your own equipment at Darlington, beating Dale Earnhardt, guys like that's pretty incredible. But the pick I'm going with is the greatest finish in NASCAR history, Ricky Craven beating Kurt Busch. Because at that point, Roush was a powerhouse. And it just seemed like Kurt Busch was going to win that race. He was winning all the time in that 97 Sharpies car back then. And the fact that Ricky Craven, at the end of that race, just seemingly came out of nowhere in the, what was that? Caldwell's PPI, the Tide Ride. They'd won one race before that. But this one, just the fact that he went up there, went toe-to-toe with Kurt Busch. They were beating and banging each other, knocking each other out the way. And then they come across the line like that, closest finish, 0.002 of a second. I mean, how could that not be my favorite underdog win?
That's a good choice. Dalton, do you have one?
Yeah, Man, those are two really good picks, honestly.
I had to research a new one because Preston stole mine.
Yeah, I think Trevor Bayne would probably be the go-to for a lot of guys out there. I can think of another one that I'm not gonna use. Maybe Trey will use it. I'm not sure, but I don't want to give it away just yet. So here's mine. And it's not a Cup Series one.
Ooh.
So it's an Xfinity Series Underdog victory. I want to take you guys back to 2006.
Uh,
A driver enters a race at Kentucky Speedway for Clay Andrews. Number 84, David Gilliland. Nobody ever, nobody saw this guy entering the race and thought, oh, yeah, he's got a shot. And he shows up, qualifies fourth. And then he goes out and everyone thought, okay, well, he's all right. Well, every once in a while, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? But then he shows up, and then not only does he lead 11 laps and runs up front for most of the race, but he wins. And it catapulted his career to where it is today. And I know he went to the Cup Series for Robert Yates, and he didn't do a whole lot there. Never won for one, but he showed up, and now he's a huge part of FRM, and he also is a part owner or a huge part of the leadership at Tricon Racing. So that win has really shaped a lot of what the team format, a lot of what like the fastest teams in the truck series are today. In other words, that win at Kentucky Speedway in 2006 sent ripple effects into 2023. I mean, that win just absolutely catapulted him into stardom. And it was in the Xfinity Series. It wasn't in the Cup Series. And I mean, and that was probably, I mean, it was a blank. If I'm not mistaken, somebody help me out here. Wasn't it like a blank black car essentially?
yeah.
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 I mean, unsponsored number 84. Like it was one of those a car that you would look at and be like, oh yeah, it's a start and park car. But no, like he went out and won that race. Like, I mean, in the modern era too, like it was something that you really wouldn't expect out of a driver. And that, I mean, that's not something that I don't think any of us would expect to happen today. Like, I think that was probably one of the last best underdog finishes. Yeah. I mean, one of the last best underdog finishes, period.
Well, I'm going with a race at Darlington as well. I'm going with the 2011 Southern 500 in Regan Smith. This was, I believe, the first win for Furniture Row. This was pre-alliance with Toyota. They were a Chevy team then, and Regan Smith goes out and wins the race with Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski right behind him. And that was when Brad was with obviously Penske and then Carl with Roush. So that was incredible to see that win, and he had to really, from what I remember, kind of, he dominated the end of that race. Obviously, Casey Kane had a good run in that one, but the fact that he won the Showtime, which was sponsoring that race, because I did a quick little research, the Showtime Southern 500, and that big of an event at that track, credit to Regan. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Happy Hour podcast. Before we let you go, Preston, at Preston Pardus, how can listeners connect with you? And maybe you got anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, just appreciate you guys having me on. It's fun hanging out with you guys tonight. But no, all social medias, I made it easy, is at Preston Pardus, if you're able to spell my last name correctly. So, yeah. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, I mean. I think that's all of them that I use. TikTok, maybe. I haven't really used that much lately. But, yeah. Then website, too, if you want some merch.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, man, for joining us this week.
No problem. Like I said, appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you much. And you can connect with us at TreyLauVT, at PitLaneLT, at M_Massey22, and at Front Stretch. Make sure you leave that 5-star review. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Happy Hour Podcast.